Can't relate, straight talk going, safe not safe. Before you cross me, look both ways. Leaving the scene with no trace, none in my league. You out of place, I'm not at the top, I'm outer space. Can't eat with us, we're out of place. I'm doing fine, I'm feeling great. You're not my fan, you can't relate. Straight talk going, state to state.
What's going on, Straight Talk faithful? Your host, your boy, coming in with a Straight Talk special, Straight Talk exclusive. I've got a member of the ROH roster. As ROH says goodbye this Saturday, December 11th, I have none other than an OG, a man who is fighting for the television title. Please help me welcome to Straight Talk Wrestling for what I hope to be not the last time, Rhett Titus. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm feeling great, George. I want to thank you for having me. It is my honor to be here.
Well, I appreciate that. So we're actually, when I introduced you, we're going to talk about that pay-per-view, Final Battle, End of an Era. That's kind of a picturesque way to put it, right?
Yeah, I've been to every Final Battle except for one. I only missed one. So as a fan, I went to many Final Battles, and then I got my first wrestling payday at Final Battle 2005. So which was an awesome Final Battle, but I wrestled on plenty of them, and this is the final battle, possibly. I sure hope not. I sure hope that there'll be more Final Battles in the future, and that I'll be there for them. But this is the end of an era, and Ring of Honor will be going on hiatus after this pay-per-view, and I have one last shot, one last chance to claim singles gold. After being here like 15, 16 years, I've won the tag titles on a few occasions, but I never had singles gold. So this is something that's always been something that's always kept me around Ring of Honor. Not only was my loyalty, but I still had a lot of goals to accomplish here, and winning the television title has been one of them. So I'm very excited for Saturday and the future and what it may hold for us and everybody else.
Well, you know what? It's been a very strange 2021 in the midst of the second year of a pandemic, doors opening, vaccines happening, things kind of starting up again in the sport of pro wrestling that we all love. And then, heartbreak for a lot of ROH fans, myself included, and also for the roster. So I got to ask, because I mean, if I didn't ask this question, I wouldn't be, somebody in the information superhighway trying to spread the messages. But how was the news for you when the news came down from the higher ups of ROH that this was happening? How was it for you and some of the other members of the roster that you're close with to hear this news?
Well, I kind of started getting the feeling that something wasn't completely right, and I was on the Zoom call that day, and I was working out, and while I was going on, and then, and it just seemed like, we always do these Zoom calls before our TV tapings, so it just seemed like, another routine Zoom call, and then all of a sudden, Joe Koff started talking. I could just tell by the tone of his voice that something was wrong, and I was like, huh. This don't sound good, and as he started to talk more, my workout just kind of stopped, and I kind of just sat there looking at the phone. And my wife, she works from home, and she peeked her head out the back door, and she's like, "Is everything all right?" And I just looked at her like, no, it is not, because it's one thing to get fired from a job or whatever, but to get released when 30, 40 of your other coworkers all at the same time, it's like, oh my gosh, there's only so many other spots available elsewhere. And the other hard part about it too is my love for Ring of Honor, and just to see that go away and not knowing what the future holds for Ring of Honor is another heartbreaking aspect of it too. And for me personally, my very first professional wrestling match was inside Ring of Honor. It was on a Ring of Honor live show in a Ring of Honor ring, and I always planned my schedule and planned all my life events and everything around the Ring of Honor schedule. And now it's kind of like, well, what am I supposed to be playing around here, guys? So yeah, it's just crazy. But talking with some of my friends, everyone's just upset and sad to see it go, and hoping that come April, Ring of Honor comes back stronger than ever.
I'm a big believer in the power of positivity, and I believe there's enough people that are positive about a Ring of Honor return that it'll happen. I'm sure they'll get the financials in order. I'm sure they'll figure things out, and I'm sure they'll be able to put everybody back to work. But I'm also a realist at the end of the day, and I know that you got to have plans. You got to have things kind of set in motion. So you yourself, I mean, we'll get into those in a second, but knowing that Saturday, you're going to walk through that curtain for the last time for now, anyways, for the next couple of months, it's going to be a bittersweet day. A lot of emotions running through everybody, but at the end of the day, you still got a chance to capture that singles gold. So even though it's bittersweet and it's emotional, you still have a tall task ahead of you fighting 3 other men for that television title. So I'll get your thoughts on that match in a bit, but definitely the emotions from the entire roster and the crew is going to be very, very high that day.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where my wife was like, "Oh, are you ready for Saturday?" And I was like, and she's like, "Well, what do you mean? You always say I don't gotta get ready, I stay ready." And I'm like, "Yeah, but this is like a different type of preparation, this is a different type of preparation because it's not about being physically prepared, it's about being mentally and emotionally prepared." And man, I always thought about the possibility of this day coming, or even the possibility of Ring of Honor going on without me. It would keep me up at night. But now that it's finally here, it's like, how do you get ready for this? And I'm just gonna try to keep myself busy that day, and just do things regularly that I always do. Get up, go to the gym, and pal around with my buddies, and drink a bunch of coffee, and tell a bunch of jokes, and try to just be happy for the moment that we still have to be there. Because honestly, we could have got on that Zoom call that day, and they could have been like, "Hey, that's it. We're done." We may not have been given this opportunity to go out there and have one last hurrah for now. And so I'm very happy and thankful for that that the fans will be in attendance, and the tickets are selling very well, very well. There's still a few seats left, so if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, this is a ticket that you do not want to miss. If you're in the Baltimore, Maryland area, you should definitely be there, because this is an end of an era, and Ring of Honor has been one of the most influential company in professional wrestling for the past 20 years. And if somebody dares to question that, I have all day to talk it up about it. But yeah, everywhere you look nowadays, there's Ring of Honor thumbprints everywhere, and kind of had a hand in everything going forward in the pro wrestling industry into 2022.
Absolutely, they do. You're right. The thumbprint is throughout the entire industry, from AEW to WWE to Impact Wrestling. There are so many wrestlers that have been groomed in the ROH dojo, much like yourself. And we're going to talk a lot about your career, but I do got to ask, that Fatal 4-Way. I'm a big fan of Fatal 4-Ways. That's actually my favorite type of match, because literally, I mean, now you're going to be in the match. As a fan, it's my favorite type of match. Being in the match is definitely grueling, 100%. But the one thing I love about Fatal 4-Ways is how quick things can change. One man can be in complete control, and the next thing you know, somebody gets their second and their third win, and you literally have to have your head on a swivel. And you're going to be in there with some very tough opponents. You're going to be in there with Silas Young. You're going to be in there with Joe Hendry, and you're going to be in there with the champion, the current reigning defending champion, Dalton Castle. And we know he's prone to a trick or two. So how do you Rhett, how do you plan to counteract that, man? I mean, I don't want you to give away your strategy. This is going to drop tomorrow, the day before the pay-per-view. I don't want you to give away your strategy, but how do you prepare for a Fatal 4-Way?
Well, when it comes to Final Battle, I've had my share of 4-Ways. My very first match at Final Battle. It was myself versus Jerry Lynn versus Chris Hero versus Necro Butcher. And the following year in 2009, it was myself versus Claudio Castagnoli versus Kenny Omega versus Colt Cabana. So I had my fair share of the four ways. So, you know, you kind of hit the nail on the head, you know, because your head has to be on a swivel in that type of match, you know. Dalton Castle is such a eccentric wrestler. You know, you don't ever know what he may have up his sleeve, and he's got his baby chickens running around, and you know, Dak Draper in his back pocket. So you never know. And Joe Henry, he's returning to Ring of Honor for the first time since 2020. You know, he's been locked up in a cage over in the United Kingdom, and now he's finally being set free. And Silas Young, you know, another ROH veteran, quite like myself. You know, he has a bunch of dirty tricks up his sleeve, probably more than Dalton Castle. So he's the guy that you got to watch out for. And, you know, but at the end of the day, you know, Silas Young has held the television title before. You know, Dalton Castle has had the world title and now the television title. And Joe Henry, he's never had gold in Ring of Honor, but you know, this is something that I've wanted for a very long time. And I think just like that overall burning desire to accomplish a goal that's been set forth so long ago. Like, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the original television title tournament, you know, I was in that, you know, like I wrestled Kevin Steen in that tournament in the first round. And even though I lost, I'm still standing, and I'm looking to finally claim that TV title after all these years.
I actually was aware you were in that tournament. Actually, that tournament is where I discovered ROH. That tournament is where I discovered Kevin Steen, discovered yourselves, and I've been hooked ever since. I'm a big Kevin Steen fan. I've had the opportunity to meet him a couple of times. He's a genuine individual, and I love it because he's a guy like me. He's not built with a six-pack. He's not built with absolute muscles, but he's built with heart. And he's got the dad bod, and I appreciate the dad bod. Being a dad of two girls, I appreciate the dad bod. You know what I mean?
Hey,
dad bods don't
there
get
ain't
enough
nothing
credit.
wrong with the six-pack, guys. You know, come on, don't be hating on them.
Absolutely not. I never would. But yeah, you're right. I do remember that tournament, and I remember that match, and I remember looking at both of you guys and being like, man, these are two guys. And now to meet Kevin Owens or Kevin Steen a few times, and now to be able to sit down and talk with you for an in-depth conversation where we have so much time left on the clock, it's an honor and it's a privilege. And I have, like I said, I've been an ROH fan since that tournament, and wow, like it's full circle to be. I've been through and through. I've been faithful. I've already got my pay-per-view purchased. It's ready to go. Saturday, I got my pizza pre-ordered. I got my beer on ice. I'm going to enjoy the final battle for right now. And I say it for right now because, like I said, the power of positivity, I believe ROH will be back. But you talked about thumbprints in pro wrestling. You talked about ROH literally having a hand in everything. Look at your life from 17 years old, training at the ROH Wrestling Academy, to then being trained by Bryan Danielson at the Academy, to being ROH now as they close their doors for this hiatus. ROH has been a big part of your life for half of your life. That is insane. So, I mean, talk to me about at 17, chasing your dreams in the Academy and then being trained by who would eventually become arguably one of the greatest wrestlers of the modern era. Not taking anything away from you, but Bryan Danielson is definitely one of the greatest in the modern era. But talk about that. I mean, age 17, ROH had its thumbprint on you from that young of an age. That's crazy.
Well, it even goes back further than that because I was at the very first Ring of Honor show as a fan. My brother-in-law was like, hey, there's this wrestling show going on. Steve Corino and Eddie Guerrero are going to be there. And I was like, what? Like Steve Corino and Eddie Guerrero, they're my number one and my number two. So like, I was like, oh, like, gotta be there. And I went and I just saw wrestling presented like, you know, a whole different way than I had ever seen before. I was like, you know, wow, like these guys are like athletes and this is a sport, you know, like this isn't just a show. And I was like, man, like these guys some of them are smaller than me. Like, you know, I could do this, you know, and I always wanted to be a wrestler, but I often say, had I not gone to that Ring of Honor show that day, I may not have ever followed through with it. And from that point, I was hooked. Ring of Honor every day. ROHWrestling.com, ROHWrestling.com. Just seeing any kind of update I could get, looking at the pictures or video clips, on a 56K computer, just trying to load all this stuff. And from the moment that they announced that they were opening up a school, I was like, oh, I gotta get there, I gotta get there. And, I was 16 at the time when the school opened up, but I would email. And finally I convinced them at the age of 17 to let me have my parents sign a waiver and, come try out. And, I tried out with CM Punk and Samoa Joe, and it was like 500 squats and like 120 push-ups and 100-something sit-ups. And I wasn't in the shape that I'm in nowadays, but I just had this, I gotta make it. I can't give up, because then I'll quit and I'll be done. I just gotta keep doing these. I couldn't walk for a week afterwards, but I did it all. And I made it through the tryout, and then eventually trained at the school. And I was originally trained by Austin Aries, and which was pretty cool, because it all came full circle last week, where I got to wrestle Austin Aries at the NWA pay-per-view for the first time ever. So that was a really cool moment for myself, because that was my dream match all this time. And then about a year later, I got a little bit more advanced training from Brian Danielson, and learned a lot of like good techniques and great techniques that I still use to this day from Brian. And from the moment that I had my first match, like I said earlier, it was at Ring of Honor, and like I would just travel everywhere Ring of Honor went. And I grew up on the road. I spent more of my adult life in Ring of Honor than I have doing anything else. And no matter what, like it was always just like Ring of Honor at the forefront of everything that I ever did. So it's crazy though to think that it's going away for a little while, because this is a lot of all I ever knew. So it was I got to learn from so many great people though, which I was very grateful for, because I would have these matches on the pre-show or the dark match, and there was guys in the locker room like Christopher Daniels and Homicide and Samoa Joe and Brian and Austin Aries and got these sorts of guys watching my matches. Nigel McGuinness giving me feedback and constructive criticism, and I got to learn from all these great minds. And it just like advanced my my wrestling development so quick, And very, very thankful for my time in Ring of Honor. I can't express enough gratitude for my time here, and hopefully it's not the last one. There's you look in the Ring of Honor record books, there's only 2 guys that have more matches in Ring of Honor than myself, and that's Mark and Jay Briscoe. But hopefully we all get to add some more matches to that later on in 2022.
Absolutely. And it's cool that you actually mentioned the NWA pay-per-view and that match with Austin Aries, because I watched that match. I loved that match. I'm a big Austin Aries fan. I've had the pleasure of talking to him as well. And it's got to be cool full circle when the student can face the teacher in a setting years later, to when he's picked up some new tricks, you've picked up some new tricks. You may know each other so well, but there's things that you might not have seen. So how was, like, when you finally get that dream match, how was that for you?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, because we hadn't been in the same ring in like well over 10 years, I tag teamed with him before, a 6-man tag team. He managed me and all that sort of stuff, but it was never on opposing sides. We never one-on-one. And it was cool to finally get that match, because I wanted that match for so long. If you would have had $1 million and said, hey, pick any match you want, any place, anywhere, it would have been against Austin Aries, just because he's my trainer. And you always want to like kind of make your trainer and people who taught you along the way proud, and like see like, hey, like coach, did I pass the test? Like that sort of thing. And it was funny. He said to me, he's like, man, like if you would have told me 15 years ago that I'd be wrestling on an NWA pay-per-view against one of my students, I would have been like, what the hell? Like, because, like, you gotta look at it from his point of view as well. Like, I was a 17-year-old kid when he met me, and I remember, like, the first day of training, he was like, all right, who wants to learn pile drivers? And I was like, me, I don't know, I wanted to learn pile driver, and he's like, all right, come over here. And he put my head between my legs, and he farted right on my head. And I was like, oh, and he's like, come on, what are you, stupid? You're not going to learn power drivers on the first day of training. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I don't know how this works. And he goes, well, really, you want to learn a power driver? I was like, well, kind of. He's like, come on, come over here. And put me in between. He's like, what did I just tell you? And I'm like, oh, man. So we from his point of view, coming all this way and and wrestling each other on the NWA pay-per-view, at the time back in the day, 15 years ago, NWA was long gone. You know what I mean? And with the help of Billy Corgan and the great team that they have over there, they resurrected it and brought it back from the dead, and now it's a thing again. So hopefully I'll be back there, and we have some more memories down the line there.
Absolutely. And I mean, it gets helmed by a great champion, Trevor Murdoch. He's another OG in the game. He's been around for a while. It's great to see him, helming the ship right now and stuff like that. But, talk to me about, let's switch to tag team for a second here. Now, talk to me about, arguably, we have to talk about the All Night Express. We have to touch on that. If we didn't touch on the All Night Express, what kind of ROH fan would it be? Right?
Yeah. Sometimes you're so caught up in what you're doing right now, you don't even think about all the memories from yesteryear, and even though it wasn't that too long ago, but man, even though for all of 2021, me and Kenny King, we were at each other's throats, we were on opposing sides.
I was very upset about that. I'm not going to lie. As an ROH fan, I was like, I don't know why they would pin these two against each other. I love it, but at the same time, I was like, fucking ROH management, man, what are you guys doing to me? I don't have, my heart's not built for that kind of stuff. Okay.
But, at the same time, I was kind of always in Kenny King's shadow, and I think I needed to get away from him for a little while to kind of spread my own wings and kind of, get by and do that. And, and we had a lot of great matches against each other. Not only were we great tag team together, we had a lot of good matches against each other as well. And a few years ago at Final Battle, we wrestled each other, Final Battle 2019 in a singles match. So man, like, all these Final Battle memories coming back to me today. My wife and son were at that show as well, sitting in the front row, and they'll be at this show on Saturday as well. And hopefully, like last time they came, they saw me lose to Kenny King at Final Battle. So now hopefully they see Daddy leave as a champion this Saturday.
I think they will. My money's in your corner. As much as I appreciate Dalton Castle and how eccentric he is, Kenny and you, man. That's an historic tag team going into a rivalry. So much history shared between the two of you. Actually, one of my favorite matches with you guys, again, another Final Battle memory. Final Battle 2010, where I believe you guys cemented yourself, in my opinion, you cemented yourself as the tag team up and coming when you defeated Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. And you guys you basically made your intentions known to that whole tag team roster that we are coming for those straps. And that was hands down one of my all-time favorite matches at Final Battle. That's why I was so jacked to talk to you, man, because a lot of my favorite matches have you in them or you centered around them. So, man, when the All Night Express faced Cole and O'Reilly, that was a moment in time. That's a match that I can watch over and over again. And if I ever was like to open up my own wrestling school, which again, I never could because I never had any professional training. But if I ever would, that would be like day one, match one. Sit down, watch this. Then we're going to watch WrestleMania 10, Owen Hart, Bret Hart. And then we are going to watch, hands down, arguably one of my favorite steel cages, which again is Bret versus Owen, SummerSlam same year.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, but if I could list 3 matches, those would be 3 off the top of my head. I mean, there's definitely more, but off the top of my head right now. But man, talk to me about 2010. I mean, that's when I was all in on the All Night Express. That's why it was so painful for me in 2021 to watch you and Kenny just like tearing each other up. But talk to me about 2010, man.
Yeah, I mean, man, like Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, they were brand new to Ring of Honor at that point. So, you know, that was the first time they ever wrestled in New York City for, I think anybody. They meant, I think anybody at that point. And yeah, man, that opener, you know, I've been in the opening spot on Final Battle plenty of times. And I hope Saturday I'm in it again, because it's one of my favorite spots to be in on Final Battle, because you kind of set the pace for the whole show. And if it's a stinker opener, you know, the show is going to kind of, you know, it tries to rebound and come back from it. But you really need a home run in that first match. And I think that was something that, you know, I was always looked at to counter upon to do it, because, you know, I was always a great guy to do it, you know, so, which, you know, I always kind of, I did that, you know, and, but yeah, man, that match was electric, man. That crowd was rocking that night. One of my favorite matches of all time too, because that I was ever part of, just because everything was hitting on the right cylinder that night, and those guys, they got made that night. It's, you know, as we further cemented ourselves in the tag team division as well. But man, like Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly really showed up to play that night. And it's funny because whenever I see Adam Cole, the first thing he says is, "Man, Final Battle 2010," and it's always cool because he's done like so much cool stuff since then. And for him to always like think back about that moment and how much it played a part in his career is a cool thing.
Absolutely. I mean, again, it's so many memories with Final Battle as a fan, as somebody who's watched and loved ROH for as long as I have. So many matches, so many memories.
How about Final Battle 2003? Did you ever see that one?
No, I did not. I got it. Like I said, I got in around like 2009 is when I discovered you guys.
Okay. So I was a fan at Final Battle 2003, and one of the greatest like fan experiences I ever had. So that was Ring of Honor versus All of Japan, and the Great Muta came in the main event, and the opener on that show was Bryan Danielson versus Jay Briscoe, and oh man, what a match that was! Mark Briscoe versus Mojo for the title. Man, there was Kojima versus Homicide.
Damn, that's a stacked fucking card.
Yeah. AJ Styles versus Kaz Hayashi. Yeah. If I'm like not being like, hey, like this is my favorite Final Battle because I'm on it, you know, if I had to pick one that I wasn't on, I think that might be the one people should go try to check out.
Absolutely. I'm going to have to look that up on Honor Club after this is done, man. I have to go run upstairs and be like, yo, let's check out 203, man. That's sick. So I got to go back to All Night Express for 1 second, though. I mean, when you're a tag team as long as you guys were, and then you have that rivalry and that battle, is it hard to transition from somebody looking across that ring and seeing that man as the next extension of yourself as your tag team partner, and then to, like you said, you were always in his shadow, or you felt you were always in his shadow, but when you go from being tag team partners and best friends to that rivalry, that's got to kick it up a notch, because you two really know everything about each other. You travel the road together. You share hotel rooms together. Like there's no secrets between tag team partner. A tag team partner is literally almost like your work spouse, minus the emotional attachment. Obviously, you become like brothers, like best friends. But how hard is that, man? When you're punching somebody who was your best friend for as long as he was.
Well, when someone's got a mouth on him like Kenny King does, it makes it a lot easier, you know?
Yeah, very true. Very true. Yes.
He does talk a lot of trash. So, but he was always like that, you know? He'd be skunking you and Madden or whatever, and he'd be sitting there just talking that trash, and you want to smack them, but you're boys and you can't be a sore loser or anything like that. But now you finally get the chance to smack them. Now that you finally get the chance to form, now you finally get the chance to twist them up like a pretzel. But then when you're hanging out after the show and you're like, hey, you're like, oh yeah, I guess I don't hang out with you anymore. Like you're hanging out with these guys now. Okay. So it does take some getting used to, but we had a lot of good times over the years, and I'm just putting this out in the universe. If this is the end of an era, you may just have to see Kenny King and Rhett Titus team up one more time, and there's some episodes of Ring of Honor in the can. Who knows what the hell's going to happen? So hopefully, we there may be some sort of reunion of some sorts in the future. Hopefully.
Now you got me all hyped up. If All Night Express comes back, all I ask from ROH is, I know that they're going to keep the online store open for a little bit longer. Just bring back the All Night Express shirt for one more time. Bring like a special edition, one night only. That's all I ask.
So, funny story. Finally got a new T-shirt up on the store. This was 2012. Like brand new T-shirt. And it was out for like a week, and then they put it right on clearance once Kenny King got released. Yeah, but that was a funny, well, not really funny, but when he finally won the Ring of Honor tag titles, and he left Ring of Honor. Yeah, it wasn't funny whatsoever at the time. It kind of really sucked because I had spent so much time being a tag team wrestler, and then all of a sudden my tag team partner was gone, and kind of had to recreate myself again. And it was kind of like the story of my career at times.
Yeah, but reinvention is a part. And like I said, Rhett, you have so many layers to your character. One of my favorite rivalries of yours of all time, in my opinion, is you and Delirious. I could watch you and Delirious dance for bell to bell forever. They always say everyone has that great dance partner. I always say this, I look at wrestling as that great dance, that art form where it's two people just telling a story without words. It's all emotions, it's all movements. It's just fascinating to watch. And people who are wrestling fans, they get it. If you're not a wrestling fan, then you don't. That's okay. But as a wrestling fan, I love to educate as many people as I possibly can. But I look at Delirious as possibly one of your greatest dance partners, one of your greatest rivalries that you two are just so fluid. You know each other so well, and the stories you guys tell in the ring are phenomenal. Would you say my assessment is correct? Would you say Delirious is hands down one of your favorite rivalries?
Yeah, for sure. Not only my favorite, but it was also one of my first too, because that's kind of like how I made my name. And at the very first Ring of Honor Hammerstein Ballroom show, I kind of interrupted him asking Daisy Hayes out on a date. So it was pretty cool to see it all come full circle once again, and wrestle him in a Pure Rules match last year.
Great match. Phenomenal match.
I had been winless against Delirious up until that point, and then finally I got my first win against him. All these years later, like it had been like something crazy, like 10 years since we had wrestled, and finally I got the W on him. But that kind of just goes to show like the kind of like year I've been having lately. Sometimes I remember one of the things Austin Aries always told me was that wrestling is like full of peaks and valleys, and I spent a lot of my time in the valleys, but I'm peaking right now, and I feel like I'm in the best shape, having the best matches of my career. So hopefully come Saturday, it all comes full circle, and I'll get my hands on that Ring of Honor television title.
I think you will. Like I said, my money's on you. My money's 150% on you in that match. I think you are going to be the one that takes it. Again, as much as I love Dalton Castle and everybody else in that, and of course with Dalton Castle comes Dak Draper. I have a soft spot with Dak. I do. I appreciate Dak for who he is. A lot of people don't. I understand that, and I understand the reasons why, but I do. I appreciate Dak. I'm like, you know what? Can't be mad at the guy. Obviously the chickens is something left to be desired, but I mean, you'll counteract all that. I know you have a game plan for all that. I know you do. But a lot of the other ROH roster members, they're making moves, they're making changes, they're preparing for what's next, the next chapter. So I have to ask, Rhett, what's the next chapter for you? Will we see you more on the indies? Will we see you back kind of getting your feet wet again in the indie circuit? Not asking for any spoilers, of course. Is there any plans to maybe hit up some other promotions? What's in the next chapter for Rhett after ROH?
Well, I'm just trying to take it a day at a time, and kind of, I don't want to think too much past Ring of Honor right now with Final Battle still on the horizon, and my sole focus has been on that. But, I've also been wrestling up for Beyond Wrestling over in Worcester, Massachusetts. They've been doing their Uncharted Territory tapings every Thursday night live on IWTV. So I like it up there. They seem to hate me, but I happen to like it up there. So I'll be heading back there, and hopefully be headed back with the NWA. They got a really good thing going on over there, and they got a lot of passionate people, and I like bringing that old school vibe that they bring. So hopefully, we can team up again in the future. And Jonathan Gresham's got this new Terminus promotion that's starting in January in Atlanta. So who knows what may happen there. Me and him happen to be good friends in the foundation. So hopefully some cool things pop off over there. But it's crazy because, like I said earlier, I've always revolved my schedule around Ring of Honor, and now it's just like yes, I'm free that weekend. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, so it's crazy to see where I may pop up.
Absolutely, I can't wait. I mean, I got to get myself to the stateside sometime. I mean, being in Canada, it's hard to get across the border these days right now. But once things open up a little bit more, I definitely plan to go see stateside and see all you guys in person, take pictures, boo and yell with the fans, and then when it's just you and I can be like, right, it was awesome, it was good to see you, but boo,
Well,
yeah.
I'll tell you this much: I've been in talks with 2 different Canadian promotions about coming over sometime in 2022. So. Yeah. So
Well, if you're ever in the GTA, man, look me up. We'll go out for a beer. Beer's on me. Real beer, Canadian beer, the best.
I've had my fair share of Canadian beers in my day.
So a couple more questions, and I'll let you go enjoy your evening. But obviously, we don't want to look too past Final Battle. Don't want to look too far towards April. But if ROH does call, will you return? Of course, I'm assuming yes, but you never know. I gotta ask.
I mean, yes, and twice on Sunday, right? Yes, of course. This is where my heart's always been, where my loyalty's always been, and people have always called me the heart and soul of Ring of Honor, and I can't see Ring of Honor continuing without a heart and soul. So I got to be there. That's my job to be there. So of course I'll be there.
Absolutely. And that's great to hear that. And of course, looking back at your historic career and all the great matches you've had, all the great opponents you've had, all the incredible rivalries, tag team titles, everything like that. Looking back at everything, it's hard to pick, but if you could, what would be your ultimate ROH memory? I have a lot of them, and I've already talked so much about them with you, but I asked the tough questions here. I got to ask that question, Rhett. What is one of the, maybe not the ultimate, but what is one memory you look back at with complete fondness when it comes to ROH?
Well, it may not have happened yet. So hopefully it happens on Saturday. But if I had to pick from the past, I'd probably have to go back to Honor Takes Center Stage, Night 2. It was the All Night Express versus the Briscoe brothers, and it was a bloodbath, and I was bleeding very heavily, and Jay and Mark Briscoe were bleeding very heavily. I'll never forget, like, me and Jay Briscoe went wound to wound and bloody face to bloody face, and had to stare down, and we just started throwing strikes, and he got me with a good one, but I came back and I clubbed him right across the chest with a big forearm. And if you go back and watch, you can just see the blood fly through the sky. And something I'll never forget as a talent. but hitting him with that forearm. And when I hit, I looked over and I seen like the production table, and Jim Cornette stood up out of his seat and threw his arms up in the air, and just like this joy. And I was like, yep, yep, we got him.
Hey man, if you could get Jim Cornette to pop in a positive way, not a negative way, that's huge. That's a great memory. And I do remember that match. That's a great match. Great match for sure. Rhett, it was an honor to speak with you, man. I cannot say enough about this. I am so honored to talk with one of, again, the heart and soul of ROH. Because if you're going to talk to anybody before Final Battle, before this hiatus, there's nobody better than the heart and soul ROH. So before you go, if there's anybody out there stupid enough to not be following the great Rhett Titus, where can they find you on the wonderful world of social media?
At Rhett Titus, ANX, RHETTTITUS, ANX on Twitter. But Instagram, be very, very careful. I am on Instagram, but my account has been hacked and this guy's pretending to be me. So I'm not trying to sell people crypto or whatever the hell he's doing on there. So I didn't buy a new Mercedes-Benz. I'm not putting my bank account on my story. So that is not me. It is my account, but he hacked my account, and Instagram's like impossible to deal with. So just follow me on Twitter for now. Facebook.com/Rhett Titus, YouTube.com/Rhett Titus, ProWrestlingTees.com/Rhett Titus ANX. I'm even on TikTok. I don't really know what I'm doing on there. But yeah, that's everywhere you can follow me.
Awesome. I think I follow you everywhere but Twitter. I do stuff on Twitter, but I'm very quick, so I'm gonna go follow you on Twitter. If I get a follow back, that'd be super dope, but no pressure on that. I get you got a lot of stuff to focus on. But man, this was an honor and a privilege, and I can't wait to do it again because you are one of the OGs, and it was an honor to talk to you today.
Well, thank you for having me, George. It's a perfect time to end because my phone is about on 1%, so we couldn't have timed it any better. But thank you for having me. It was an honor.
Thank you, sir. As always, I will tag you in everything when this drops tomorrow. It'll drop tomorrow evening, so I'll make sure to tag you in everything across the board, except for Instagram. We'll stay away from that because you're not selling cryptocurrency. But I will even tag you on TikTok. As always, guys, I'm your host, your boy, George Mackay. Peace, love, and wrestling. See you next time. Peace. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to tune in next week for another great episode on all available podcast platforms and hosted on Podbean. Also, check us out on YouTube at Straight Talk Wrestling, on Instagram at Straight Talk Wrestling, on Facebook at Straight Talk Wrestling, and on Twitter at _Straight Talk. And if you feel the need to buy some sweet merch, check us out on ProWrestlingTees.com.
Leaving the scene with no trace, not in my league. You out of place. I'm not at the top, I'm outer space. Can't eat with us, we're out of place.